Okay, in previous examples, we took a look at method overloading in Java. In this example, we're going to take a look again at our box class, and we're going to work with overloading constructors. So we're going to construct multiple box objects. We'll do that with a default constructor and parameterized constructors, and we'll pass in some various parameters to construct them. So let's go ahead and I've already set up the class box with the width, height, and depth doubles, and the class demo to run our program. So that'll be our entry point with our main method. Okay, let's go ahead and build our first default constructor so we can build the box object. So we'll start off by assigning one. So just box, parentheses, and curly brackets. So that's basically it for the default constructor. Let's go ahead and name it default constructor. Okay. Now, this is really easy here. We're going to go ahead and build our box object. Let's just name it box. We'll name it box1. Um, and we'll just use the new keyword and box. So right now it's basically an empty box containing width, height, and depth. So let's go ahead and use dot notation to access those variables and assign some value. Let's just go 10 box1 dot height equals 11 and box1 dot depth equal, let's call that 8. Okay, so we've constructed our box1 object, which is a box type, and we've added some values to width, height, and depth for that. Let's go ahead and create another constructor here that passes in all three variables. So we're going to pass in the desired width, height, and depth. So they're double. We're going to pass in width. We're going to double. We're going to pass in height. And double. We're going to pass in depth. All right. So let's go ahead and assign those. We're going to be using the this keyword. Okay. And in a previous video, I talked about the this keyword. So let's go ahead and do width is equal to width. This height is equal to height. And this dot depth is equal to depth. Okay. So now we have our parameterized constructor. Okay. Now let's go ahead and construct this one. So box2 is going to be equal to new, and then we're going to pass in the desired width, height, and depth. So we'll do 2, 3, and 4. Okay. So we've built those. Now, what we're going to do next is we're going to add a method here to returns a double. We're going to return the volume of the box, and then we're going to go ahead and just return the this dot width times this dot height times this dot depth. Okay, and that will return us the volume for the particular box object. All right, so let's go back here and just go ahead and print out our first box volume here. Okay, so a string, so volume for box 1 is equal to, And let's go ahead and call that box1 dot volume. All right, and let's print that out, see what that looks like. All right, so box volume for box 1 is 808.0. Again, because we're returning double. Okay, so then we've constructed our box here, box 2. So let's go ahead and print that one out. All right, volume for box 2 is equal, and then let's go ahead and print out box 2 dot volume. All right, let's run that. All right, there we go. So we still have our first box, and now we have the volume for our second box. All right, so let's take a look at what we're doing here. So we use the default constructor to build box 1. We've used dot notation to add some values to width, height, and depth. Then we went ahead and built a parameterized constructor that takes in 3 parameters, width, height, and depth. And we've used the this keyword to assign those to the instance variables. And we've constructed it here. Okay. Now we're going to create another constructor where we pass in a object parameter. So we're basically going to copy over one box's width, height, and depth to create a new box. So let's go ahead and build that constructor. So again, box. Okay, we're going to pass in a box object. Well, let's call this B. Okay, and in here, we're going to do this width is equal to B, which is the box object we're passing. We're going to be equal to its width. This dot height is equal to B dot height. And this dot depth is equal to B dot depth. Okay. So this is our another constructor, and this constructor is parameterized, but we're passing in a box object to create another box object. So let's go ahead and create this third box. So box 3 is going to be equal to new box. And then what we're going to do is we're going to pass in our first box. We're going to pass in box 1 into that constructor. All right. And now we're going to do a system.out.print, and we're going to print out the volume for box 3 is equal to box 3 dot volume. Okay, just print that out. We'll run our program here. All right, so here we see that the volume for our first box is 880, and for box 2 it's 24, and then we see here box 3 has the same volume as our first box because we're basically copying over the same width, height, and depth, but we're using the box object to create another box object. Okay, so let's look here. We have a default constructor that basically has an empty code block, the parameterized constructor that takes in 3 values, width, height, and depth, and a box constructor that takes in a box parameter. Okay, let's do one more example, and where we build a box object that has equal width, height, and depth. Let's go ahead and add that right after our, we'll just call this our constructor. So right after that, look, we'll create another one here, and we'll just have a double, and we'll say length, and then we're going to assign this dot width is going to be the same as this dot height, which is the same as its depth, which is all going to be equal to the length that we're passing in. All right, So quick, easy way of constructing a cube, basically. So we'll go ahead and create that fourth box. All right, so box 4 is equal to new box, and we'll pass in a value of 7. Okay, let's make it a even number here, and then we're going to go ahead and print that out. Okay, volume for box 4 is equal, and then box 4 dot volume. All right, now let's run this. All right, there we go. And we see that the volume for box 4 is 512. All right, so that's a quick look at the various constructors and constructor overloading.